Keyline Princess here, and welcome back to another episode of the Keyblade Chronicles, where I talk about anything and everything to do with Kingdom Hearts. Today, since the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC Remind is close at hand, I wanted to sort of talk about my feelings on the DLC and what we know about it so far and how it can affect the base game of Kingdom Hearts 3. Real fast before we get into this, please stay tuned until the end of the video for just a little announcement. I've expressed in some of my reactions to the DLC trailers of how I am a bit worried about this DLC. So, for one, DLC with any game is, well, a bit tricky sometimes. Sometimes DLC can be really cool and a really good thing, adding a little bit of extra content to a game you really enjoyed playing, and it's a way to sort of bring you back to the game and give you a reason to play the game again with some new extra content. Some DLC even improves upon some of the things the original game had. But on the other side, you have situations like what happened with Final Fantasy 15 getting, for lack of a better word, overloaded with DLC, to the point that people questioned why this stuff wasn't in the initial base game, saying that the game was rushed and so this stuff, got turned into DLC instead of not actually being in the base game. Not to mention all the extra money that had to be put into the DLC if you wanted to get it, because most of it you had to pay for and it wasn't free. I'm one of those people who don't really like the idea of DLC in general, just for the fact that I am stingy and I don't want to pay more money for a game that I already paid for. And I am an old-fashioned and a firm believer that a game should have everything it needs already in the base game. But I definitely do see the appeal of DLC, and if it's done right, like I said, it could be a really good thing. Now, for the Kingdom Hearts series, DLC has not been an issue that we've had to worry about. Essentially because all the games basically came out at a time when DLC wasn't really a thing, or they were on a console that DLC just wasn't really compatible with, such as the DS. But of course, with Kingdom Hearts 3 being available for PS4 and Xbox, fans speculated from the very beginning whether or not it would actually get DLC, and of course it is. Now, from what I've heard and what I know, this Remind DLC is the only DLC Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to get, and I surely do hope that's the case, because I don't want this to end up like a Final Fantasy 15 situation. But getting into what the DLC actually is going to have, well, it's a little bit vague. Here is a list of a couple things that are said that are going to be in the DLC, but it's strange because just from the trailers and from this, I don't know, it feels like there's some stuff that they're not telling us, and there's just a couple things that aren't quite clicking into place for me. But let's look at what this DLC is going to offer from what we know for sure. The first thing is, well, we're going to be able to fight each organization member individually, and it's essentially going to be like the data fights in Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, I love these characters, and I love fighting these characters, and I enjoyed the data fights in Kingdom Hearts 2. But I'm sorry, I might be in the minority here, but I don't want to sit there and fight all these guys again. I don't care that it's on the Unreal Engine and all their moves look cool and different, and the characters themselves look cool and different. I don't care. I thought the way Kingdom Hearts 3 handled the organization fights was really good, because yes, we fought these characters time and time again, so you need to mix it up a bit. So having us fight more than one at a time really helped with that and really put a little more edge onto the fights. And it completely made sense in the context of the Keyblade Graveyard, because it's a war. Of course they're gonna tag team you and not play fair one-on-one. Now, the data fights in Kingdom Hearts 2 weren't canon, and I'm sure these won't be either. But I mean, come on. I can't be the only one who would rather fight like some new Heartless, some new nobodies or Unversed, or even some new characters, some new secret bosses, things that we have not seen whatsoever, some random things, like some of the secret bosses that the Kingdom Hearts series has had with their final mixes were really interesting, and they really thought outside of the box with some of them. And yet this really feels like they're just taking the lazy way out by using a concept that they already previously did in Kingdom Hearts 2, because they know the fans will like it and they know it did well before. Not only that, but this way they get to recycle a lot of their assets, such as the character models and stuff like that they already had made for Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay, what else does this DLC have? Oh yeah, Final Fantasy characters. I had a feeling this would be a thing in this DLC. Now, don't get me wrong, I was upset that there weren't any Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts 3, because I felt that, hey, okay, excluding like new Final Fantasy characters that we haven't met in the Kingdom Hearts series yet, what about Leon, Yuffie, Cloud, the people that we've seen before? Their stories aren't finished. So it was kind of really strange to just leave them out. And the reasoning behind it is even more bizarre, as Nomura essentially just thought, oh, hey, people probably don't really care to see that anymore, right? Or it's not really a big deal. Okay, that wasn't actually the full reason. It was a time restraint situation, from what I know. And they actually had been working on models for Leon and Yuffie, so they were originally going to be in the game. But see, here's where it just doesn't sit right with me. For one, it's a very fan-servicey thing because, oh, hey, you know, it's what all the fans thought Kingdom Hearts 3 needed. And there's nothing wrong with doing some fan service, and DLC essentially, you know, I know a lot of people would say that should just be, you know, fan service type of thing. But I feel like it is just gonna bring up more drama and more tension with Kingdom Hearts 3. It's just gonna give people more ammo that the base game was no good, and that this stuff should have been in the base game from day one. And though to a point I can agree with that, there should have been Final Fantasy characters from day one, but I do understand the reasoning behind it, and at that point in development, I'm sure Nomura and the team just wanted to get this game out. But I would respect this decision more if they stuck to it and saved the Final Fantasy characters for the next game. It's like, okay, they made this bold decision to not put Final Fantasy characters in the game, so it should kind of stay that way. But I'm thinking I'll be okay with this in the actual DLC, because it doesn't seem like they're just smashing these Final Fantasy characters in between the story. It does feel like it's an after-the-fact thing of, oh, well, Sora's gone, maybe they can help. And I'll admit, I'm pretty okay with that. If you have to put Final Fantasy characters in here, then at least make it its own separate thing. And as long as they give reason why the characters weren't in Kingdom Hearts 3, like Leon or if you say, yeah, we've been gone doing this or whatever, then I think I can get over it enough. But again, it just kind of feels like they're recycling assets in a way. I mean, as I said, they were working on Final Fantasy character models before the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, and they were initially going to be in there, so it feels like all they did is finish what they started. Okay, one of the other things this DLC is going to have is playable Kairi. So, you guys should already know my feelings on Kairi. And I'm going to say this right here up front. It's not that I don't want her to be playable, because I do. I do want her to eventually be playable. Keyword eventually. At this point, she hasn't had enough character development or enough training within the story to do some of these moves that she kind of does and to get this sort of moment. I mean, being a party member, in the Keyblade graveyard, I felt that was fine. She's there, she has to try to help as much as she can. And she had a few, good moves, whatever. But come on, you're gonna put her up against Xehanort? And it's contradictory. It's contradictory because, she gets kidnapped by Xemnas, and can't even fight back and gets killed by Xehanort. But now she's just taken out the big bad of the series with no trouble whatsoever. And the thing is, it'd be one thing if it was a cutscene or if it was some other kind of situation, because then I would fall back on, maybe she won't be able to actually win. But no, she's the playable character. She is the player. Of course, the player is going to beat Xehanort even if they die a couple times. This may not be canon, or it may be some kind of thing where it's like an inner situation with Kairi, kind of how Riku had an issue with Ansem and he had to mentally get over it, and it was it was kind of in his head type of situation. Maybe it's something to do with that. I would be pretty okay with that. But just from what we've seen with the situation, it looks like it's to be canon, and it looks like she is really defeating the big bad of the series. And I'm just not okay with that based on her level of character development and training and the things that happened to her in the base game of Kingdom Hearts 3. I would much rather her be fighting a different character or something of that nature. And of course, the trailers don't give much context, so it could be me overthinking it and overreacting, and it could be a situation where it's not the way I'm thinking. So, I'll be, if that's the case, then I'll be pleasantly surprised. And yeah, it's I'm fine with playing as Kairi. I want to play as her. I just didn't want to yet. The other reason it feels weird to me is because Sora is her party member. Look, I understand everyone wants to have a moment or have a time or even a whole game dedicated to their favorite character, to play as their favorite character, but the situation stands. Sora is the main character, and I fully stand by the fact that as the main character, he needs to be the playable character at all times. There are exceptions to this, like in Kingdom Hearts 2, when he was incapacitated and Riku had to save him. That made sense because Sora could no longer fight. So of course you're gonna switch perspectives to the character that can. Even in Kingdom Hearts 3, it made sense. Oh, switch to Aqua to defeat Vanitas. Makes sense because she puts up a barrier, making it to where Sora, Donald, and Goofy literally cannot intervene and cannot fight. Even with the playable section with Riku, it made sense because Sora is not there at that moment. If you're gonna switch perspectives to a different character, that's how it should be. It should be a situation where the main character, for whatever reason, is not able to fight or is not there during the fight period. But if he is, then he should be the playable character. And it feels weird that this is the situation. This is the first time this has happened where we've seen Sora as a party member and not actually the playable character, and I just don't like the feel of it. I just don't like it. Now, what else does this DLC have to offer? We're gonna have, of course, a secret boss. Now, who the secret boss is, obviously, has not been fully revealed yet. There are a few characters that it could be. The most likely case to what the final boss is actually going to be, I think it's gonna be Yusora. Now, without getting into Verum Rex and Final Fantasy 15 too much, because that is not my department. And I feel like I don't want to speak on Verum Rex until we actually see a little bit more of where Nomura is going with this. I think Yusora is going to be the secret boss because the way they showed him in a trailer, it looked like it was literally just gonna be the little cutscene before the battle, and going off of what Nomura wanted 15 to be, Noctis was originally supposed to have a big connection with dreams in the dream world and whatnot, and in this trailer, Yusora and Sora say,
I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Like, is any of this for real or not?
Which makes it seem that Yusora is dreaming, and perhaps he sort of, he thinks this is a dream and he sort of ended up here. I just can't really understand what other purpose there would be to this scene, or to seeing Yusora at all. I don't know. All in all, I'm hopeful for this DLC to actually throw in some neat surprises. And if nothing else, it is new Kingdom Hearts content, and I can't really be too upset about that. I've just gotten so tired of the community fighting over whether Kingdom Hearts 3 was good and lived up to the expectations or not. And I feel like this is just gonna fan the flames even more. And on top of that, it feels to me that just a lot of the stuff that DLC is going to have to offer is very fan servicey, things that seem like it'd be 2-second decision. Oh, obviously we're gonna put that in there. And a lot of it, when you think about it, feels a bit lazy in the way of them reusing different assets and stuff. I'm fine with them doing that. Like, of course, use whatever resources you have available to you, but a lot of it really does feel that way. I mean, even Yusora, when you think about it, they did make a model for him already. So it's like, even that, it feels like if he is the secret boss or whatever the case is gonna happen with him, it feels like that's even like, oh, that was easier for them to do than maybe some other options, like making a brand new nobody to fight or something. And even the Keyblades we're going to get, Oathkeeper and Oblivion, we've already had in several of these games. Now, I really like these Keyblades, I do. But is it too much to ask that besides those two, we get maybe some new Keyblades, or at least like one new Keyblade that is completely new to the series that we've never seen before, like a new special Keyblade or something? Or heck, even if you're gonna bring a Keyblade back, at least bring one back that we haven't seen in a long time, or that was only in one game. Oathkeeper and Oblivion have come back several times now. And again, they reused assets for those because they had to make the models for those for Roxas. And all they really had to do is make them actually playable for Sora. I don't want to prejudge this DLC, and to be fair, it hasn't given us a whole lot. There hasn't been a lot of details released. And for the story bits, there's a lot of stuff out of context that we won't really be able to understand until we actually play the DLC, which is why I'm not really going into the story side of things that the DLC has shown, because I can't really make sense of it quite yet. Honestly though, it just makes me nervous to think that the biggest thing that I'm really excited about for this DLC is what they're gonna do to photo mode, being able to like pose the characters and do some like crazy editing and crazy things. But I mean, we haven't even seen that in action. They haven't shown that in any trailers. I don't know how to even really react to that. But as I said, I am really trying to stay positive about this DLC, and like it or not, we are getting it. I've just never really felt this way about any other Kingdom Hearts content, to where I'm actually unsure if I even want it or not. And case in point, I haven't even pre-ordered this yet, but never fear. I love the series too much not to get this DLC. I'm just being stubborn about it. And actually, I want to stream my reaction to the DLC here on my channel. So yeah, when it comes out, look forward to that. I figure it will be a good thing to stream because since it's DLC, it shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't take too long to complete it. And also, I doubt there'll be any blocked scenes or anything like that. So it should be a good way for me to get back into streaming a bit. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for the DLC? Or do you kind of wish that the team would just actually work on the next game in the series rather than worry about DLC?
You are the one who will open the door.
Join me as we play through the Xehanort Saga, starting with the game that started it all, Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix. Let's Play coming soon.